Paul Brannan, a Labour MEP for the North East. Why is a fall in roaming charges the cost of using your mobile phone abroad? Why is it significant that those prices are coming down?
Great news for customers. At the moment, if you have a mobile phone, you're probably paying some kind of flat rate for the phone in the UK. When you go abroad, you're immediately paying extra charges to make phone calls, extra charges to send information, texts, and to receive calls over and above what you're already paying. So this piece of legislation at the European Parliament, which has been passed, instigated by Labour MPs and the Socialist group in the European Union, means that the charges have been coming down. They'll come down again on the 1st of July, and then in January 2016 they go completely. So you have no extra charges at all from January 2016 when you travel in Europe, either on holiday or for work.
And I'll ask you in a minute about the ultimate aim of getting rid of roaming charges altogether. But in the meanwhile, this latest set of cuts in charges forced by the EU on companies will see particularly a big fall in data roaming. That's going to kind of more than halve from its current cost. Considering the amount of use of using the internet and email and so forth abroad for business, for example, is that important that those costs keep coming down?
I think for businesses, in many ways, the smaller the business, the more relevant this is. If you're a small business, charges for sending documents by email when you're abroad can pretty quickly mount up. I'm sure in a big multinational, it's a cost that they're used to carrying, but not in both cases, not an insignificant cost. If you're a multinational company with many members of staff travelling, then this is a cost which builds up. So from the point of view of companies, whether they're large, medium or small, this is a significant saving for them over time.
And of course the mobile phone companies could have decided to have done this themselves, but it has actually taken EU law to force them to bring prices down and keep forcing them to bring prices down year on year.
I think this is a good example of how the European Union, by working together as a group of countries, cross-party support for this across the European Union, has been able to put the necessary pressure on businesses who themselves are operating across Europe. So it's very difficult for an individual country to pass legislation that will deal with a company which itself is a multinational company. This is the way forward for dealing with companies that operate pan-European and multinationally, is for there to be a response at a European level. And I think in many ways we'll see more of this in future. Good for the customers, good for business, and I'm fairly certain that the actual companies themselves will be able to bear the cost. The improvements in technology mean that they've long ago reaped the benefits financially, and I think understandably they were unhappy and opposed it, but I don't see there a problem going forwards for the companies, the telecommunication companies themselves.
And you mentioned ultimately the aim is now to get rid of roaming charges altogether. Is that something you support, or do you perhaps feel that the mobile phone companies are entitled to earn a bit more when presumably the costs are more than it costs them to use the phone when you're in the home country?
Well, let's not forget, it's not free to use a mobile phone. When you take out a contract, you need to look at the detail, but in one way or another you are paying for that phone. This is the additional charges which we've moved to tackle at a European level. It's not the case that you're going to get free phone calls when you travel abroad, but obviously the idea that you can get on a train in London and go all the way to Inverness and your charges stay the same. You can get on a train in London and go a relatively short distance to Brussels and your charges go up. In a global environment, that doesn't make any sense really.